Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Her dark eyes reflected the cold light of distant suns. Behind her, dozens of officers worked at their stations. The bridge hummed with quiet activity. Sarah had commanded ships for 20 years, but she had never seen anything like what was coming. The communication officer turned toward her. "Admiral, we have incoming transmissions from the outer colonies." His voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the fear underneath. She had trained these people well. They would do their duty even when death was coming for them. "Put it through," Sarah said. Her voice carried across the bridge. Every officer stopped what they were doing to listen. The main screen flickered to life. A man's face appeared, covered in blood and dirt. Behind him, fires burned in the distance. "This is Colonel Martinez from New Geneva Colony. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack." The image shook as explosions thundered nearby. The ships, they're alive. They're eating our defenses. They're eating everything. The transmission cut to static. Sarah felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. Her crew was watching her. They needed to see strength. "Next transmission," she ordered. Another face appeared on the screen. This time it was a young woman in a pilot's uniform. Her eyes were wide with terror. "This is Captain Rodriguez from Titan Station. The enemy fleet is massive. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They look like giant sea creatures. Our weapons barely scratch them. They're regenerating faster than we can damage them." The pilot's voice cracked. "Admiral, they sent us a message. They want complete surrender. They say they've conquered 47 star systems. They've never lost a battle." "Admiral, what are your orders?" The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Sarah could feel the weight of every person's stare. Thousands of ships filled the space around them. Each ship carried hundreds of crew members. All of them were looking to her for answers. Sarah walked to the tactical display. The holographic map showed the solar system. Red dots marked the enemy fleet's position. They were moving inward from the outer rim, destroying everything in their path. The aliens had overwhelming numbers. Their ships were bigger and stronger than anything humanity had ever built. But Sarah had studied the enemy for 3 years. Ever since first contact, she had prepared for this day. She knew their weaknesses. She knew their arrogance. Most importantly, she knew something they didn't understand about humans. Humans never surrendered. Communications. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet," Sarah commanded. "Channel open, Admiral." Sarah stood straight. Her uniform was perfect. Her medals caught the light from the tactical display. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of humanity's greatest military leader. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen speaking to all ships and all crews. Today the Zephyrian Collective has come to our home. They believe we will kneel before them as others have done. They believe we will surrender our freedom, our families, and our future." Sarah paused. The bridge was completely silent. "They are wrong." Sarah began to walk slowly across the bridge as she spoke. "The enemy has superior numbers. Their ships are larger than ours. Their weapons are powerful. But they have never faced humanity in battle. They don't understand what drives us. They don't understand that we would rather die fighting than live as slaves." The tactical officer called out, "Admiral, enemy fleet is accelerating. They'll reach the inner colonies in 6 hours." Sarah nodded but continued speaking to the fleet. "In the next few hours, many of us will die. Our ships will burn. Our friends will fall. But we will not break. We will show these aliens that humanity stands together. We will show them that Earth is not for sale." She reached the center of the bridge and stood beneath the Great Seal of the United Earth Fleet. "All ships, maintain defensive positions. Do not engage until my order. Let them come to us. Let them think they have won before the battle even begins." Sarah cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Williams, what's the status of our secret weapon?" Williams checked his displays. "The Prometheus-class ships are ready, Admiral. Their quantum disruptor cannons are charged and waiting. The enemy has no idea what we've built." "Good. And Dr. Webb's research? All ships have been equipped with the new electromagnetic pulse weapons. If his theory is correct, we can disrupt their bioship's neural networks." Sarah smiled for the first time that day. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator waiting to strike. "Then we have a chance." The communication officer spoke up again. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender demands from the enemy fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Let me hear it," Sarah said. A new voice filled the bridge. It was deep and harsh, like rocks grinding together. The words came through the translation system with mechanical precision. Humans of the third planet, I am War Prime Kethvar of the Zephyrian Collective. Your resistance is meaningless. Your weapons are toys. Your courage is foolishness. The alien's voice carried absolute confidence. We have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed countless fleets. No species has ever defeated us in battle. Submit now. And some of you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and every human in this system will die. The transmission ended. Several officers on the bridge looked nervous. The alien's words carried the weight of truth. The Zephyrians had never lost a war. Sarah walked back to the viewing window. In the distance, she could see flashes of light as the enemy destroyed the outer defense stations. Each flash meant hundreds of human lives were ending. Dr. Webb, Sarah said into her communicator, "Are you ready?" The scientist's voice came back immediately. "Yes, Admiral. All our research is loaded into the tactical computers. Every ship captain knows how to target the bioship's neural clusters. We've run 1,000 simulations, and the results? If we can coordinate our attacks perfectly, we have a 30% chance of victory." Sarah almost laughed. 30%, against an enemy that had never lost. Most military leaders would call those impossible odds. But Sarah Chen was not most military leaders. She had grown up on Mars during the resource wars. She had seen humans fight impossible battles and win through sheer determination. She knew that courage could overcome superior firepower. "All ship," she broadcast again. "Enemy contact in 5 hours. Check your weapons. Check your armor. Check the person next to you. We're going home today, or we're not going home at all." The hours passed slowly. Reports came in from the colonies. The enemy was taking their time, destroying everything systematically. They wanted humanity to see how hopeless resistance was. Finally, the long-range sensors detected the enemy fleet entering the inner system. Sarah stood at the tactical display and watched the red dots grow larger. Hundreds of alien ships, each one bigger than her flagship. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out. "Visual contact with enemy fleet." The main screen switched to long-range cameras. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The enemy ships looked like massive sea creatures swimming through space. Their hulls pulsed with organic life. Some had tentacles that stretched for kilometers. Others had mouths filled with rows of energy weapons that looked like teeth. "Incredible," whispered the tactical officer. "They're beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Sarah studied the formation. The aliens were approaching in a classic domination pattern. They expected no real resistance. They were here to make an example of humanity. "All ships, battle stations," Sarah ordered. "Remember, we wait for my signal. Let them get close. Let them think they've already won." The enemy fleet continued its approach. Sarah could see smaller ships detaching from the main force, scout ships moving ahead to probe human defenses. "Admiral," communications reported, "the enemy is hailing us again." On screen, War Prime Kethvar appeared on the main display. He looked like a cross between a shark and a spider, with multiple arms and rows of sharp teeth. His eyes were completely black. "Human Admiral," he said, "this is your final chance. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Sarah stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. "War Prime Kethvar, I'm Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. I have a message for you." "Speak quickly, human. My patience runs short." Sarah's voice was steady and clear. "Go to hell." She cut the transmission. Around the bridge, her officers smiled grimly. They were ready. "Enemy fleet increasing speed," reported sensors. "They're coming in fast and angry." Sarah nodded. "Perfect. Angry enemies made mistakes. All ships prepare for battle. This is Admiral Chen. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of." The enemy fleet rushed toward them like a pack of hungry wolves. But Sarah Chen and her fleet were waiting. And they had surprises that would change everything. 3 years earlier, Dr. Marcus Webb had been studying pond scum on Europa when humanity received its first message from the stars. The transmission came from something calling itself the Zephyrian Collective. At first, everyone was excited. First contact with alien life was humanity's greatest moment. That excitement lasted exactly 47 minutes. The aliens had not come to make friends. They came to deliver an ultimatum. The message was simple and terrifying. Surrender or be destroyed. Join the collective or die. Humanity had 1 year to decide. Dr. Webb remembered sitting in the emergency session at the United Earth Council. Politicians argued about diplomacy, while military leaders talked about impossible defenses. But Webb was thinking about biology. The aliens had shown images of their ships. They were not machines. They were alive. If they're biological, Webb had said during the meeting, then they have weaknesses that machines don't have. That was the beginning of 3 years of desperate research. Webb and his team studied every image and data fragment they could get from the aliens. They learned that Zephyrian ships were grown, not built. Each ship was a massive organism with its own nervous system. The ships could heal damage and adapt to threats. But they were still living creatures. Living creatures could be killed. Webb discovered that the bioships used a form of neural network that was vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. If humans could disrupt those networks, the ships would lose coordination. They might even turn on each other. But the research was only half the battle. Humanity also needed ships that could survive long enough to use the new weapons. Captain Elena Vasquez had been in charge of building those defenses. She stood now on the surface of New Geneva Colony, watching the sky turn red with enemy ships. The aliens had arrived exactly on schedule. 3 years to the day since their ultimatum expired. All units fall back to secondary positions, Elena commanded through her communicator. Around her, human soldiers ran through the streets carrying equipment and wounded civilians. The Zephyrian attack had begun at dawn. Their ships had appeared in orbit like great shadows blotting out the sun. The first wave of attacks had targeted the orbital defense platforms. Each platform had been destroyed in seconds by weapons that dissolved metal and flesh alike. Now the aliens were landing ground forces. Elena watched through her binoculars as strange creatures poured out of organic landing pods. They looked like insects crossed with nightmares. Some had multiple legs and claws. Others had tentacles and acid spit. All of them moved with deadly purpose. "Captain," her radio crackled. "Alpha Squad is pinned down in Sector 7. They need support." Elena checked her tactical display. Alpha Squad was guarding the evacuation route for civilians. If they fell, thousands of people would be trapped. "Delta Squad converge on Sector 7. Beta Squad lay down covering fire from the eastern ridge," Elena ordered. She grabbed her rifle and started running toward the battle. As she ran, Elena thought about the 3 years of preparation. Humans had known this day was coming. Every colony had been fortified. Every soldier had been trained. But knowing death was coming and facing it were very different things. The Zephyrians had not expected resistance. Their previous conquests had surrendered quickly when faced with overwhelming force. But humanity was different. Humans had a reputation for fighting hopeless battles and somehow winning. Elena reached Sector 7 just as a group of alien warriors broke through the defensive line. These creatures stood 3 meters tall and had 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Their skin was like armor and their eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. "Take them down," Elena shouted. Human soldiers opened fire with pulse rifles designed specifically to fight biological enemies. The weapons sent concentrated electromagnetic bursts that disrupted organic nervous systems. The alien warriors stumbled as their coordination failed, but they kept coming. Even wounded, even confused, they fought with savage determination. Elena watched one of her soldiers get grabbed by an alien's claws. The creature lifted the man off the ground and prepared to tear him apart. Elena fired her rifle's special ammunition. The electromagnetic pulse hit the alien directly in what Dr. Webb's research suggested was its neural center. The creature's eyes went blank and it dropped the soldier. "The EMP rounds work," Elena called out. "Aim for their heads!" The battle turned quickly after that. The aliens were deadly fighters, but they depended on their enhanced nervous systems for coordination. When those systems were disrupted, they became confused and vulnerable. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The real battle was happening in space, where Admiral Chen faced the main Zephyrian fleet. In orbit above New Geneva, War Prime Kethvar stood in the control chamber of his flagship. The bioship was a massive creature that had been grown over decades in the breeding pools of the collective. Its neural networks were more complex than most planets' ecosystems. Kethvar was pleased with the progress of the ground assault, but he was beginning to feel frustrated with human resistance. Most species surrendered after seeing their orbital defenses destroyed. Humans were continuing to fight even when their situation was hopeless. Warprime, his tactical advisor, reported, "Human ground forces are using some form of neural disruptor weapons. Our warriors are taking unexpected casualties. Keithavar's forearms gestured dismissively. A minor inconvenience. Their weapons are primitive compared to our biotechnology. How many humans have we killed? Approximately 12,000 in the first wave. But our own losses are higher than projected. This gave Keithavar pause. The collective had conquered 47 star systems, without ever losing more than a few hundred warriors in any single battle. Humans were supposed to be weak creatures with simple weapons. "Show me the tactical display," Keithavar commanded. The bioship's walls became transparent, revealing a three-dimensional view of the battle. Keithavar could see human colonies burning across the system. But he could also see that human military units were still fighting in dozens of locations. Their ships were still holding formation despite being vastly outnumbered. Why do they continue to resist? Keithavar asked. Have they not received our surrender demands? They have received them, War Prime. Their Admiral Chen sent a reply that our translators cannot properly interpret. The closest translation is "go to hell." Keithavar felt anger building in his chest. The collective was offering these humans a chance to serve as workers instead of being exterminated. It was more mercy than most species received. Yet they threw that mercy back in his face with crude insults. "Very well," Keithavar said. "If they choose destruction, we will give it to them. Order all ships to accelerate attack patterns. I want this system cleansed within 6 hours." The War Prime did not understand human psychology. He had spent his life conquering species that valued survival above all else. When faced with certain death, they surrendered and accepted whatever terms the collective offered. But humans were different. They had a saying that Keithavar would never understand: "Give me liberty or give me death." For humans, some things were worth dying for. Freedom was one of them. On Earth, in the deep military bunkers, General Harrison watched the reports from the outer colonies. The news was grim but not unexpected. Human forces were taking heavy casualties, but they were also gathering valuable intelligence about enemy tactics and weaknesses. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're getting confirmation that Dr. Webb's neural disruptor theory works. Ground forces report significant success with EMP weapons against individual Zephyrian warriors." General Harrison nodded. "And the space-based weapons?" "Admiral Chen's fleet is equipped with quantum disruptor cannons based on the same principle. If the theory scales up, we should be able to disrupt the neural networks of entire bioships." "That's a big if, General." Harrison looked at the strategic display showing the entire solar system. Red markers showed Zephyrian forces advancing toward Earth. Blue markers showed human defensive positions falling back in good order. "Sir, there's something else," the aide continued. "Intelligence reports suggest that the Zephyrians have never faced resistance like this before. Their previous conquests typically lasted hours, not days. What does that mean for us? It means they're not prepared for a prolonged battle. Their tactics assume quick victory followed by occupation. If we can force them into an extended fight, they might make mistakes." Harrison smiled grimly. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its refusal to give up. Human history was filled with impossible victories won through sheer stubbornness. "Send a message to Admiral Chen," Harrison ordered. "Tell her that ground forces are holding. The civilians are mostly evacuated. She has authorization to implement the final phase of the battle plan." The final phase. Harrison had hoped it would not come to that. It was dangerous and desperate even by human standards. But if it worked, it would show the galaxy that humanity was not prey. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Chen received General Harrison's message. She read it twice, then walked to the tactical display where her senior officers were gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we have authorization for Operation Prometheus." Commander Williams looked up from his displays. "Admiral, are you sure? The quantum disruptor cannons are untested in actual combat. If they don't work..."
"Then we die fighting instead of living as slaves," Sarah replied.
"How long until the enemy fleet reaches optimal range?" 47. The moment Admiral Chen had waited 3 years for finally arrived. The Zephyrian fleet reached optimal attack range, and she gave the order that would change the course of the battle. "All ships, engage the enemy. Execute Operation Prometheus." Across the human fleet, quantum disruptor cannons powered up with an energy signature that had never been seen in space combat. The weapons were based on Dr. Webb's research into biological neural networks. If the theory was correct, they would sever the psychic connections between the bioships and their controllers. The first volley lit up space with brilliant blue energy. Quantum disruptor beams lanced out from the Prometheus-class dreadnoughts and struck the largest Zephyrian bioships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The massive alien vessels continued their advance, their organic hulls pulsing with life. Then something changed. The lead bioship suddenly veered off course, its movements becoming erratic. Its tentacles writhed in apparent confusion. The creature that served as a warship was no longer responding to its controller's commands. "Direct hit on Target 1, reported Commander Williams. "The neural link appears to be severed." Sarah watched the tactical display with intense focus. The disabled bioship was colliding with two others in its formation. The Zephyrian attack pattern was already beginning to break down. "Target the command clusters," Sarah ordered. Just like Dr. Webb's simulations. Cut off their coordination and they become vulnerable. The human fleet moved with precision that surprised even Sarah. Every captain operated with autonomous authority, adapting to battlefield conditions in real time. It was a concept completely alien to the Zephyrians, who relied on centralized command through their psychic networks. Captain Torres of the destroyer Defiance found himself facing 3 bioships at once. His ship was fast but lightly armed. In a direct confrontation, he would be destroyed in seconds. But Torres had studied the enemy's psychology for 3 years. "All power to engines," he commanded. "Take us straight at the largest one." His crew looked at him like he had lost his mind. Charging directly at a superior enemy was suicide. But Torres knew something the aliens didn't. Humans were unpredictable. The Zephyrian bioship prepared to destroy the small human vessel with contemptuous ease. Its weapon clusters oriented toward the approaching destroyer. But at the last second, Torres pulled a maneuver that no sane pilot would attempt. He used the bioship's own gravity field to slingshot around it, coming up behind its neural cluster. The move put incredible stress on his ship's hull, but it worked. The Defiance emerged directly behind the alien vessel's most vulnerable point. "Fire all weapons," Torres ordered. The destroyer's electromagnetic pulse cannons fired at point-blank range. The bioship's neural cluster exploded in a shower of organic debris. The massive creature went completely limp, drifting helplessly through space. "Impossible," breathed Torres's tactical officer. "We actually killed one." But Torres was already moving on to the next target. "That's one down, a few hundred to go. Let's see how many more we can take with us." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships used speed, cunning, and desperate courage to overcome superior firepower. The Zephyrians had expected a quick, decisive victory. Instead, they found themselves in a chaotic battle where their usual tactics were proving ineffective. War Prime Kethavar felt confusion for the first time in his long military career. The neural networks linking his fleet were being systematically destroyed. Bioships that should have been responding to his commands were instead floating dead in space or attacking their own allies. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his tactical advisor. "Unknown, War Prime. Their weapons appear to disrupt organic neural tissue at the quantum level. We have never encountered anything like it." Kethavar's anger was building to dangerous levels. The collective had conquered 47 star systems using superior technology and overwhelming force. No species had ever developed effective countermeasures to their bioships. "Deploy the hunter-killers," Kethavar commanded. Small, fast units that can get close to their ships. Tear them apart from the inside. Hundreds of smaller bioships detached from the main fleet. These creatures were designed for close combat, with claws and acid weapons that could slice through metal hulls. They moved like schools of predatory fish seeking weak targets, but the humans were ready for this tactic too. As the hunter-killers approached, squadrons of human fighters launched from the larger ships. These pilots had trained extensively in anti-biological combat. Lieutenant Davis led a squadron of 12 fighters against a swarm of 50 alien hunter-killers. The odds were impossible, but Davis had grown up on stories of human pilots who had beaten impossible odds through skill and determination. "Remember your training," he broadcast to his squadron. "These things are fast, but they're predictable. They attack like animals, not soldiers." The first wave of hunter-killers came at them with savage fury. Davis waited until the last possible second, then rolled his fighter into a spiral that brought him alongside the lead alien ship. His electromagnetic cannons fired repeatedly, overloading the creature's nervous system. Around him, the other human pilots used similar tactics. They were outnumbered 4-1, but they fought with a coordination that came from years of training together. Each pilot knew exactly what the others would do in any situation. The aliens fought as individuals, relying on their superior speed and weapons. But humans fought as a team, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying each other's strengths. "Davis, you've got 3 on your tail," called Lieutenant Parker. "I see them. Torres, can you clear my 6? "On it." The human fighters moved through the swarm of alien hunter-killers like they were dancing. Their formations shifted and flowed, creating opportunities for attack while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. Within minutes, the tide of the small craft battle had turned. 40 alien hunter-killers had been destroyed, while the humans had lost only 3 fighters. "This is impossible," transmitted the lead alien pilot before his ship was destroyed. How do they coordinate so perfectly without a neural network? The answer would have shocked the Zephyrians if they had understood it. Humans didn't need psychic links to work together. They had something the aliens had never encountered: trust. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the battle reports with growing satisfaction. The quantum disruptor cannons were working better than anyone had dared hope. Nearly 30% of the enemy fleet was either destroyed or disabled, but the battle was far from over. The Zephyrians still had superior numbers, and they were beginning to adapt to human tactics. War Prime Kethvar was reorganizing his remaining forces into smaller, more flexible groups. "Admiral," reported Commander Williams, "enemy fleet is changing formation. They're breaking up into independent attack groups." Sarah nodded. She had expected this. The Zephyrians were intelligent and adaptable. They would not make the same mistakes twice. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Implement Battle Plan Delta. Time to show them what human flexibility really looks like." Battle Plan Delta was the most complex tactical maneuver in the human fleet's arsenal. It required every ship captain to make independent decisions while maintaining overall coordination. It was a plan that only worked if every single person understood their role perfectly. The human fleet suddenly exploded into motion. Ships that had been fighting in large formations broke apart into smaller groups. Each group targeted a different part of the enemy fleet, forcing the Zephyrians to fight multiple battles at once. Captain Martinez of the cruiser Valiant found himself leading a group of 5 ships against a Zephyrian battle cluster. His force was outnumbered 2-1, but he had advantages the enemy didn't understand. "All ships execute pattern Alpha 7, Martinez commanded. The 5 human ships moved in perfect coordination, their courses weaving together like the threads of a tapestry. They approached the enemy formation from 5 different angles, making it impossible for the aliens to concentrate their fire. As they closed range, each ship fired its weapons at precisely calculated moments. The electromagnetic pulses hit the bioship's neural clusters in a carefully timed sequence that overloaded their entire network. The result was devastating. 7 large bioships lost coordination simultaneously, their movements becoming wild and unpredictable. 2 of them collided with each other. A third began firing randomly at its own allies. "Enemy formation destroyed," reported Martinez's tactical officer. "Minimal damage to our forces." Similar victories were happening across the battlefield as human tactical superiority began to tell. The Zephyrians had superior technology, but humans had superior teamwork. On New Geneva Colony, Captain Elena Vasquez watched the space battle through her command center's tactical displays. The ground fighting had paused as both sides focused on the larger battle in orbit. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're getting signals from the Zephyrian ground forces. Their coordination is breaking down. Some units are retreating without orders." Elena smiled grimly. Dr. Webb's neural disruptor theory was working on multiple levels. By severing the psychic links between the bioships and their controllers, the human flew. The final assault began with a fury that shook space itself. War Prime Kethvar led the remaining Zephyrian fleet in a direct charge toward Admiral Chen's flagship. It was a desperate gamble by a commander who had never known defeat. The surviving bioships moved like a pack of wounded predators, their organic hulls scarred and bleeding from the quantum disruptor attacks. But they were still deadly. Each ship was kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the enemy charge with calm eyes. Around her, officers worked at their stations with the quiet efficiency of professionals who knew they might be about to die. "Range to enemy formation?" she asked. 12,000 kilometers and closing fast, reported Commander Williams. They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes, Sarah nodded. The battle had reached its critical moment. Everything humanity had worked for, everything they had sacrificed would be decided in the next few minutes. Signal all ships, she ordered. Form defensive sphere around Earth's moon. Make them come through our entire fleet to reach us. The human ships moved into position with practiced precision. They formed a three-dimensional shell of firepower around the lunar orbit, with the Indomitable at the center. It was a formation designed to maximize their defensive capabilities while minimizing the aliens' numerical advantage. War Prime Kethvar watched the human maneuver with grudging respect. Even facing certain defeat, they maintained perfect discipline. He had underestimated these creatures from the beginning. All ships prepare for close combat, Kethvar commanded. Boarding parties to assault positions. We will take their flagship and kill their admiral with our own claws. The Zephyrian charge hit the human defensive line like a hammer blow. Bioships crashed into the formation with suicidal fury, their living hulls absorbing tremendous damage while they fought to break through. Captain Torres, commanding the destroyer Defiance, found himself directly in the path of a massive bioship. The alien vessel was 10 times larger than his destroyer, but Torres had learned something important during the battle. Size didn't always matter. All power to forward shields, he ordered. Ramming speed. His crew stared at him in shock. Sir, ramming that thing will destroy us. Maybe, Torres replied, but we'll take a chunk out of them too. Sometimes that's enough. The Defiance accelerated toward the bioship's neural cluster. At the last second, Torres fired every electromagnetic pulse cannon on his ship directly into the alien vessel's brain center. The bioship convulsed, its movements becoming wild and uncontrolled. The destroyer smashed into the alien ship's hull, tearing a massive hole in its side. The Defiance was destroyed instantly, but the bioship was crippled. It spun helplessly through space, no longer a threat to the human formation. Torres got him, reported Commander Williams quietly. The Defiance is gone, but that bioship is finished. Similar sacrifices were happening all across the battlefield. Human ships that were too damaged to continue fighting used themselves as weapons, ramming alien vessels or detonating their power cores next to enemy neural clusters. But the Zephyrians were adapting too. Their remaining ships had learned to avoid the quantum disruptor beams, and they were using their superior speed to get close enough for boarding actions. The first boarding pod struck the heavy cruiser Marathon. These were not mechanical transports but living creatures designed to burrow through ship hulls. They attached themselves to the Marathon's armor and began eating their way inside. Captain Jackson of the Marathon felt his ship shudder as the alien borers broke through the hull. Boarding parties inbound, he announced to his crew. All hands to combat stations. Remember your training. Human soldiers throughout the ship grabbed electromagnetic rifles and took positions at key choke points. They had trained for this scenario, but training and reality were very different things. The first Zephyrian warriors to break through were nightmarish creatures that looked like crosses between spiders and sharks. They moved with incredible speed, their multiple arms ending in claws that could slice through metal. Their skin was armored, and their eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. Sergeant Rodriguez led the defense of the Marathon's engineering section. She had fought alien ground forces on New Geneva, but shipboard combat was more confined and brutal. There was nowhere to retreat. Wait for them to get close, she told her squad. These things are fast, but the EMP rounds work if you hit them right. The Zephyrian warriors came down the corridor like a wave of death. Their claws scraped against the metal walls, creating sparks. Their breathing sounded like steam engines. Fire! Rodriguez shouted. The human soldiers opened up with electromagnetic pulse rifles. The weapons sent concentrated bursts that disrupted organic nervous systems. The lead alien stumbled as their coordination failed, but they kept coming. Rodriguez watched one of her soldiers get grabbed by an alien's claws. The creature lifted Private Chen off the ground and prepared to tear him apart. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. She charged forward with her rifle set to maximum power. The electromagnetic pulse hit the alien warrior directly in its neural center. The creature's eyes went blank and it dropped Chen. But 2 more aliens were already moving to attack Rodriguez. She rolled to the side, firing as she moved. One alien went down, but the other reached her before she could fire again. Its claws raked across her armor, leaving deep gouges. Rodriguez pulled out her sidearm, a small electromagnetic pistol designed for close combat. She fired 3 shots directly into the alien's head. The creature collapsed, its nervous system completely overloaded. Sector 7 clear, she reported, breathing hard. But we've got more coming. The battle raged through the Marathon's corridors for over an hour. Human soldiers fought with desperate courage against aliens who were bigger, stronger, and faster. But the humans had advantages too. They knew their ship better than the invaders, and they fought with teamwork that the individual-minded aliens couldn't match. Eventually, the boarding action was repelled, but the Marathon was badly damaged. Captain Jackson's ship could barely fight, and half his crew was dead or wounded. "This is Jackson to Admiral Chen," he transmitted. "Marathon is combat ineffective. We're pulling back." Similar reports came in from ships across the fleet. The Zephyrian boarding actions were taking a terrible toll on human forces, but they were also exposing the alien ships to concentrated fire from the rest of the fleet. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with growing concern. Her fleet was winning the overall battle, but the cost was enormous. Nearly 60% of her ships were destroyed or disabled. Earth's defenders were being ground down by attrition. "Admiral," Commander Williams reported, "long-range sensors detect a massive bioship approaching. It's War Prime Kethvar's flagship. Size estimates put it at over 20 kilometers long." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. The alien command ship was a monster that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. If it reached the defensive line, it could break through by sheer mass alone. "Can our quantum disruptors affect something that large?" she asked. "Unknown, Admiral. Dr. Webb's research was based on smaller vessels. That thing might have redundant neural networks." Sarah made a decision that would define the rest of the battle. "Signal the Prometheus dreadnoughts. Concentrate all fire on the flagship. Everything else is secondary." The 3 remaining Prometheus-class ships turned their massive quantum disruptor cannons toward War Prime Kethvar's bioship. These weapons represented humanity's most advanced technology, but they had never been tested against a target this large. The first volley struck the alien flagship dead center. The bioship shuddered but continued its advance. Its hull was so thick that even the quantum disruptors couldn't penetrate to the neural core. "No effect," reported Williams. "The ship's too big. Our weapons can't reach the critical systems." Sarah felt a moment of despair. If they couldn't stop the flagship, the battle was lost. Then she remembered something from Dr. Webb's research. The bioship's neural networks weren't just in their cores. They extended throughout the entire organism. "Target the extremities," she ordered. "The tentacles, the weapon clusters, anything that extends from the main body. Cut off its ability to fight, and maybe we can cripple it." The human fleet concentrated its fire on War Prime Kethvar's flagship. Quantum disruptor beams lanced out, targeting the massive tentacles that served as the ship's primary weapons. One by one, the alien weapons went silent as their neural connections were severed. Inside the flagship, Kethvar felt his ship's pain as if it were his own. The creature that served as his vessel was suffering terribly. Its neural networks were being systematically destroyed by weapons he didn't understand. "War Prime," his tactical advisor reported. "We're losing weapons control. The neural links to our primary systems are being cut." Kethvar realized that his ship was being methodically crippled. The humans weren't trying to destroy it outright. They were cutting it apart piece by piece, like surgeons removing a tumor. "Prepare my personal assault craft," he commanded. "If they want to fight like animals, I'll give them what they seek." "War Prime, that's suicide. You'll be facing their entire fleet alone." Kethvar's eyes burned with predatory fury. "I am War Prime of the Zephyrian Collective. I have conquered 47 star systems. I will not be defeated by these primitive mammals." The alien commander's personal ship detached from the cripple admiral. Sarah Chen faced War Prime Kethvar in the center of her ship's bridge. The alien commander was a terrifying sight, standing over 3 meters tall with 4 arms ending in razor claws. His skin looked like living armor, and his completely black eyes held the fury of a predator that had never known defeat. Around them, the bridge crew had taken cover behind their stations. This was no place for ordinary weapons or tactics. This was a duel between 2 commanders who had led their species to the edge of extinction. "Admiral Chen," Kethvar spoke, his voice carrying the weight of conquest. "I am War Prime of the Zephyrian Collective. I have crushed 47 star systems. Your resistance ends now." Sarah kept her electromagnetic pistol trained on the alien's center mass. Her voice was steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "War Prime Kethvar, I am Admiral of the United Earth Fleet. Your invasion ends here." The alien commander's forearms spread wide, his claws catching the light from the bridge displays. You fight like an animal defending its territory. It is admirable, but futile. Even if you kill me, my fleet will destroy your world. Your fleet is broken, Sarah replied. Look at your tactical displays. Half your ships are dead or disabled. The survivors are retreating. Your great collective has been beaten by humans you thought were weak. Kethavar glanced at the displays around the bridge. What he saw there sent a shock through his system. The human admiral was right. His mighty fleet was in ruins. Ships that had conquered entire civilizations were floating helplessly in space, their neural networks severed by weapons he didn't understand. Impossible, he whispered. The collective has never been defeated. There's a first time for everything, Sarah said. Your people made one critical mistake. You thought strength was everything. You never learned that sometimes the smaller fighter wins because they have more to lose. Kethavar's anger exploded into action. He leaped forward with incredible speed, his forearms moving like lightning. Sarah dove to the side, firing her weapon as she rolled. The electromagnetic pulse struck the alien in the shoulder, causing his left arms to spasm and lose coordination. But Kethavar was far from finished. He spun with his remaining functional arms, catching Sarah across the chest with his claws. Her body armor absorbed most of the impact, but the force sent her flying across the bridge. Sarah hit the tactical console hard, her vision blurring from the impact. She could taste blood in her mouth. The alien commander advanced toward her, his claws extended for a killing blow. You fought well, human, Kethavar said, but this is how it ends for all who oppose the collective. Sarah's hand found her backup weapon, a smaller electromagnetic device designed for point-blank combat. As Kethavar reached for her, she pressed it against his chest and fired. The pulse sent the alien staggering backward, his nervous system overloaded by the close-range electromagnetic burst. Sarah used the opportunity to get back on her feet, though her ribs ached from where his claws had struck. This is how it ends for invaders who come to our home, she said, raising her primary weapon again. But Kethavar was recovering faster than she had expected. The alien commander's natural armor had protected him from the worst of the electromagnetic damage. He charged forward again, this time using all four arms in a coordinated attack. Sarah couldn't dodge completely. One set of claws raked across her left arm, tearing through her uniform and drawing blood. But she managed to land another electromagnetic pulse directly into Kethavar's neural cluster. The alien's movements became erratic, as his nervous system struggled to maintain coordination. Sarah pressed her advantage, firing repeatedly at close range. Each shot disrupted more of the alien's biological systems. Your weapons, Kethavar gasped, his speech becoming slurred as his neural functions degraded. How do you know our weaknesses? We studied you for 3 years, Sarah replied, keeping her weapon trained on him. Every transmission you sent, every image of your ships. We learned that you were living creatures, not machines, and living creatures can be killed. Kethavar made one final desperate attack, lunging forward with his remaining functional arms, but his coordination was too damaged. Sarah sidestepped easily and fired her electromagnetic pistol directly into the base of his skull. The war prime of the Zephyrian collective collapsed to the deck of the human flagship. His great body shuddered once, then lay still. The alien who had never known defeat had been beaten by a human admiral who refused to surrender. Admiral, Commander Williams called out from behind his station. The enemy fleet is in full retreat. They're jumping to hyperspace as fast as they can. Sarah looked at the tactical displays. It was true. The remaining Zephyrian ships were fleeing the system in disorder. Without their war prime to coordinate them, their morale had completely collapsed. Let them go, Sarah ordered. But make sure they take a message back to their collective. Earth is not for conquest. Around the bridge, her officers began to emerge from cover. They stared at the body of the alien commander with a mixture of awe and disbelief. They had actually done it. Humanity had defeated the unstoppable Zephyrian collective. Damage report, Sarah said, trying to return to normal procedures despite the extraordinary circumstances. 68% of the fleet destroyed or disabled, Williams reported. Casualties are estimated at over 200,000, but Admiral, we won. Against impossible odds, we actually won. Sarah felt the weight of those losses. Every number represented someone's son or daughter, husband or wife. The victory had come at a terrible price. Signal all ships, she ordered. Begin search and rescue operations. I want every survivor found and brought home. Over the next several hours, the scope of the victory became clear. The Zephyrian invasion force had been completely destroyed or routed. Not a single alien ship remained in human space. The colonies that had been attacked were beginning to report that the ground forces were either dead or had surrendered. On New Geneva Colony, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the ruins of what had been the capital city. The battle had left scars that would take years to heal, but the colony was free. Human soldiers were rounding up the surviving alien warriors who seemed lost without their psychic connection to the fleet. "Captain," her radio crackled, "we're getting reports from across the system. The invasion is over. Admiral Chen defeated their entire fleet." Elena looked up at the sky where the last fires from the space battle were fading. It seemed impossible that the nightmare was actually over. For 3 years, humanity had lived with the knowledge that extinction was coming. Now suddenly they were free. "All units," she broadcast, "begin humanitarian operations. Let's start rebuilding." Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Chen stood in the observation deck looking out at the debris field that marked humanity's greatest victory. The cost had been enormous, but they had achieved something no other species had managed. They had defeated the Zephyrian collective in open battle. Dr. Webb's voice came through her communicator. "Admiral, I'm analyzing the wreckage of the alien ships. Their neural networks are even more complex than we thought. It's amazing that our weapons worked at all." "Sometimes luck is more important than science," Sarah replied. "But I don't think it was just luck. We had something they didn't." "What's that, Admiral?" Sarah thought about the sacrifice of Captain Torres, ramming his destroyer into a bioship 10 times its size. She thought about Sergeant Rodriguez, charging alien warriors to save her squad. She thought about Captain Rodriguez, transmitting targeting data even as her fighter exploded around her. "We had something worth fighting for," she said. "They fought to conquer. We fought to protect our homes, our families, our freedom." That made all the difference. A new transmission came in from Earth Command. General Harrison's face appeared on the communication screen, and for the first time in years he was smiling. "Admiral Chen, on behalf of the United Earth Government and all of humanity, thank you. You and your fleet have saved our species." "Thank you, General. But the war isn't over yet. The Zephyrians will be back and they'll be better prepared next time." "Maybe," Harrison replied. "But they'll also know that humanity doesn't surrender. Word of this battle will spread throughout the galaxy. Every species that's been conquered by the collective will know that resistance is possible." Sarah nodded. That was perhaps the most important victory of all. For too long, the galaxy had believed that the Zephyrian collective was unstoppable. Now they knew different. "Admiral," Commander Williams interrupted, "we're receiving transmissions from other star systems. The Tau Ceti colonies want to know if we can help them. Apparently, they've been under Zephyrian occupation for 50 years. Sarah felt a new purpose forming in her mind. Humanity had proven they could defend themselves. Now maybe it was time to help others find their freedom too. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Begin preparations for deep space operations. We have work to do." As the Indomitable turned away from Earth, Sarah took one last look at the planet that had given birth to her species. It was safe now, protected by the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of brave men and women who had refused to kneel before an alien conqueror.